The newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Pauline Verzosa. The government's repatriation program continues for our fellow Filipinos caught in the war in Lebanon. Some 16 OFWs from Lebanon landed in Manila this weekend. They shared how terrifying the explosions in Lebanon were, echoing even in the middle of the night. Over 11,000 Filipinos are currently in Lebanon. However, only less than 10% of them have shown interest in returning to the Philippines.
Ang nakaslate natin, ang book natin ay 213. Kasama yung 8 na umuwi kahapon, total ang napauwi na natin ay 472. Yung 213 na nabanggit ko ay uuwi ito hanggang sa October 29.
In other news, President Bongbong Marcos is back in the Philippines after attending the annual ASEAN Summit in Vientiane, Laos. Before leaving the summit, Marcos urged ASEAN members and stakeholders to do something about China's aggression in the South China Sea. Maricel Halili with that report.
Non-stop meeting for ASEAN leaders and other state nations in Laos are winding down today. But on the last day of the annual gathering, President Bongbong Marcos had a parting shot. At the East Asia Summit, China became a target once again of his criticism over its illegal activities in the West Philippine Sea. In his speech before 18 state leaders, including representatives from Beijing and Washington, PBBM repeated his call to action that ASEAN should not ignore China's aggressive actions against Filipinos in disputed waters. The chief executive cited violent incidents at sea, including attacks on Philippine civilian fishery vessels, targeting aircraft with lasers, and intimidation using guided missile ships.
Ini-intimidate yung ating mga fishermen o hinaharang yung ating mga barko, yung mga Coast Guard. We'll just have to deal with it. But nonetheless, whatever happens, we will maintain that presence.
President Marcos believes these Chinese actions are a blatant disregard of international law and accepted regulations meant to prevent collisions on water. For this sentiment, Marcos found an ally at the ASEAN-US summit that also happened on Friday. America's Secretary of State Anthony Blinken found Beijing's behavior unsettling.
We remain concerned about China's increasingly dangerous and unlawful actions in the South and East China Seas, which have injured people and harmed vessels from ASEAN nations, and contradict commitments to peaceful resolution of disputes.
Blinken reiterated U.S. support to ASEAN and Taiwan on this matter. For its part, China insisted that it does not instigate trouble in contested waters. The Chinese Foreign Ministry claimed that more than ever, the situation in the South China Sea is generally stable due to cooperation among stakeholders. Beijing also underscored its commitment to finalizing a code of conduct that will ensure a more permanent order in the South China Sea. But maritime security experts have their doubts with China's pronouncements. After all, negotiations for a code of conduct have been going on since 2018, and there are concerns that China is deliberately stalling the process. One suggestion is to get Beijing out of the picture for a while. That means the Philippines, claimant countries, and other ASEAN members could start with a minilateral cooperation and work on the building blocks of a binding agreement.
Which I think, even with or without China, you can create your own code of conduct now. So it's not up to China, because the more, if in case we keep on giving importance to China and China is delaying it, ito lang yung walang magiging code of conduct.
For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
Former Senator Laila de Lima was not shocked about alleged drug lord Kerwin Espinosa's bombshell against Senator Bato de la Rosa. Her camp is also considering filing charges against the former Philippine National Police chief who allegedly linked her to drug accusations. Here's an excerpt from her interview on Storycon.
Senator, nung na-clear kayo in your drug cases, sinabi nyo you were considering filing complaints, charges, criminal charges against people na nagdawit nga sa inyo, yung mga ng false testimony. Ngayong nabanggit na po pati si Senator Bato de la Rosa. Are you pursuing those charges?
That's part of the pinag-aaralan na rin po yan ng lawyers, kasi kanina may kausap po ako, isa sa mga lawyers ko. Although, sabi ko nga sa inyo, dati na naming narinig yan. Now, with this, na may nag-publicly confirm that, then we might as well include also the former PNP chief and now Senator De La Rosa. Kasi noon, yung nakatuton lang po yung pag-prepare ng aking mga abogado sa mga ipa-file na kaso, yung mga doon sa pag-file sa akin, ng mga nag-testify sa akin doon sa 3 drug cases. At ang alam po namin naman doon ay yung inutusan ng dating Pangulo na maging chief enforcer ng ano na yon, yung mga invention of cases, manufacturing of evidence, ay yung dating Justice Secretary na si Vitaliano Aguirre. Ito naman pong sa kaso ni Kerwin Espinosa, it now appears and na-confirm yung naging information din po namin na it was Police Chief, then Police Chief, PNP Chief Bato de la Rosa. So I guess ganun na rin ang gagawin ng ating mga abogado. Mag-uusap po kami next week. I'll be meeting with them early next week as to ano ba yung mga, the further steps to be taken in light of this testimony of Kerwin Espinosa.
Kung sakali, Senator, anong idea nyo? May idea ba kayo kung anong klaseng kaso yung isasampa sa mga ito? Dahil hindi lang to usapin ng pag-bear ng false witness laban sa inyo. Ito ay pagwasak ng ating mga institusyon, lalo na yung ating institusyon ng hustisya. Kaya this is a bigger issue at dapat bigyan ng leksyon itong mga ito.
You are correct. And that's exactly part of the study being made by my lawyers. Kasi yung mga malinaw na pwede mga i-file sa ngayon ay yung perjury and subornation of perjury. When you induce someone to falsely testify, that is subornation of perjury. And then syempre, siguro magiging recommendation din ng mga abogado ko yung damages, but that's secondary. Ang importante ay yung sa criminal charges. So perjury, subornation of perjury, and malicious prosecution, and several others.
Ma'am, sorry ma'am.
Pero yung tungkol nga dun sa bigger picture, Sec Ronald, talagang iniisip pa namin yan. I really want something like that.
We'll be back with more stories after this break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Pauline Verzosa. The bill removing mother tongue as a medium of instruction in kindergarten to grade 3 has now lapsed into law. Republic Act number 12027 revises the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013, which initially required the use of the mother tongue-based multilingual education program. Under the new law, the medium of instruction will revert to Filipino. It will come into effect 15 days after its publication in the official Gazette. The death toll from Hurricane Milton in the United States has now risen to at least 17. More than 2 million households and businesses across the state of Florida remains without power. About 1/3 of gas stations do not have fuel, including nearly 88% of those around Tampa. Analysts have estimated insured losses of between $30 billion and $60 billion due to the hurricane. Now, have you ever heard of sitting volleyball? Well, meet Dorel Padilla, a member of the national team, as he shares his inspiring journey in this unique sport. Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho has the story.
With the recent 2024 Paralympics, much more sports and athletes are getting the spotlight. That includes sitting volleyball, a sport that we have in the Philippines. Dorel Padilla is one of our para-athletes in the sitting volleyball national team, established just a few years ago. The sport involves playing volleyball while sitting on a smaller court with a lower net. Dorel, a Negros native, shared the beginnings of the sport in the country.
Parang laro-laro lang po nag-umpisa.
Most of the para-athletes in the current roster came from varying provinces in the country, one of which is the Negros province. It was only 2014 when a local government unit introduced the sport in this province with less strict rules. And for people with a disability like Dorel, the sport was an instrument in empowering the community.
Kasi yung laro kasi enjoyment camaraderie siya. So lahat kayo nag-involve ba?
Dorel was born with no legs, making him used to moving around with only his upper body. With no knowledge about the existence of sitting volleyball, it was powerlifting and wheelchair basketball that first came into his life. And with the question of adjusting to a new sport,
Yung sitting volleyball is yung dapat nakadapa yung puwet mo doon sa floor. So parang na-use ko na rin po yung yung natutunan ko lang doon, yung para mag-approach ng bola, mga ganun lang.
Looking back, the adjustment was more on playing on a cemented court to the Tataflex they now use in the national team.
Ayan din, nasusugatan din po. Yung mga short namin nabubutas.
As someone who grew up in the serene island of Negros, moving out to a completely different city was something Dorel had to figure out. Now, at the age of 43, Dorel has learned to adapt to the hustle and bustle of the city.
Parang masaya na makasama mo yung mga teammates mo, kasama mo yung coaches mo, at mayroon po kayong mga bagong matututunan araw-araw.
And what keeps him moving forward?
Parang ginagawa mo po talaga para po sa bayan talaga po. Yun lang po, tuloy-tuloy lang. Bilang isang persons with disability is not a hindrance po for your success. So tuloy-tuloy lang.
When things don't go according to plan, life has a way of redirecting you into far more better things you could ever imagine. All it takes is a little more faith and the persistence to keep on moving. Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho. We are One News.
And American pop rock band Lainey returned to the Philippines after 2 years and performed at the Philippine Arena over the weekend. Their Filipino fans sang along to their hit songs like Malibu Nights and ILYSB. Filipino singer Maki also joined them on stage to sing Out of My League and OPM hit Dilao. After their Philippine Arena show, Lainey was scheduled to perform in Cebu yesterday and tonight. And those are the top stories of the hour. I'm Pauline Rizosa. We are One News.